Colonel Fossum, thank you for being with us today. So everybody, we're really looking forward to this, by the way. So Mike Fossum is currently a vice president at Texas A&M University. He is the chief operating officer of the Galveston campus at Texas A&M. And he's also the superintendent of the Texas A&M Maritime Academy. So he wears a lot of hats. He's had a couple of interesting jobs. He was a test pilot in the United States Air Force after he graduated in 1980 from A&M. Did that for several years and then went to work at NASA where he was an astronaut. And he's done, I believe, 3 missions in space and commanded the International Space Station. But I think he's taken on his greatest challenge, managing 400 young men and women as they go through the Maritime Academy at Texas A&M and become merchant seamen, and some of them be going on to become naval officers. But we certainly appreciate you coming to talk to us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Colonel.
Great. Well, thanks a bunch. Yeah, it's of course it's interesting times. We've been dealing with a different kind of storm since March, as everybody has, and of course the campus scattered and never came back from spring break. And I actually, this week, I feel like I've been in some kind of Twilight Zone episode, because I've been here throughout almost 7 days a week since March. And there's been times I felt like I was marooned on the space station. I'm going around my office building and there's nobody else here. And all of a sudden, there's students on campus. And they're in classes. And we've been gearing up for a few weeks doing a fish camp. We call it SALT Camp, Sea Aggies Learning Together here, as well as Cadet Orientation Week or O Week. But now they're all here. So it's actually very exciting. And we're just doing our best to keep them here and help teach them. We're in masks and everything else that we need to do. So it's very strange times. And forgive me for dialing in just in the nick of time. We're looking at not 1, but 2 other storms coming at us in the Gulf of Mexico right now. There's a hurricane, I forgot its name. It's Tropical Storm Linda or something like that. And we're expecting the other one that's coming across the Yucatan this weekend, heading pretty close to Houston, will be named Marco. And there's a little jokes in there about calling for Marco Polo kind of thing. Our incident command team has been activated since early March, so we're well practiced in dealing with storms. It's funny how a potential hurricane can have a calming effect because we know what to do. So it's thanks for the opportunity. To join you today, and I'm going to try to transition here to get my. I'm just gonna have to bump for a minute and then see if I can figure it. Nope, I'm gonna have to undo that for a moment to get where I can share. And there we go. Then we get that, and then that, and now I think do you see just the opening slide now?
Yes.
Okay, good. It gets confusing sometimes. Well, and so I did retire from NASA 3.5 years ago to take on, I wanted another challenge. I was getting bored. No, I wasn't really bored. I loved what I was doing. I never thought I'd leave NASA, but the opportunity to serve the university and, right here, my wife and I and family have, raised 4 kids in Clear Lake area. We've been here for a total of about 28 years, and so the chance to serve the university and accept a whole new challenge was just amazing opportunity, for me to give back. Something a lot of people don't understand is Galveston is Texas A&M University. We are not a system school like A&M Corpus or San Antonio, etc. We are the same university, so we're one university. We don't have our own reveille, but Miss Rev comes to visit us a couple times a year. She's wearing Mardi Gras beads because she usually comes down from Mardi Gras and was here last spring for Mardi Gras. We've got Ring Day is a big thing on our campus, Silver Taps, Muster. We have our own yell leaders here also, and I tell the ones in College Station they better be nice to my yell leaders or they would be on the road a lot, because these yell leaders are very, very busy, and they're key to our campus culture and all here too. Just like on the main campus, it's a big day when you order your Aggie ring, but my students can't go take their picture by an Aggie ring statue big enough to drive an F-150 through. So they will typically grab the sign and head to the beach, just like that. It's a unique location, and if you were trying to find our campus and you're wandering around Galveston, you would wander a long, long time unless you happen to want to go to Seawolf Park, because Seawolf Park is located at the end of the road down here. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the campus is here in the foreground, and we own this property right here, and it's really unique because out this direction we've got wetlands and Galveston Bay and all of the science associated with coastlines and the whole ecosystem and the movement of pollutants and the in the bay as well as the Gulf you can see beyond there. And then we have the Galveston Ship Channel right here, and the city of Galveston and the open Gulf of Mexico. So this is the operational side of the campus over here. This is the business side of the maritime world. So it's we're actually on Pelican Island, which is a separate entity from Galveston Island over here, connected by a two-lane drawbridge. We've come a long ways just in the last few years. I want to brag, and I had nothing to do with it. All these construction projects that I got to do the ribbon cuttings on were the work of those who came before me. But if you haven't wandered over here in a long time, we've come a very long ways with stepping up our, just our capability to have some nice places instead of what really for a lot of years was really more of a, industrial, cinder blocks and blowing sand construction around here. We're strongly connected to what we call the blue economy in so many kind of ways, because everything we do, the whole purpose for this campus was to work on the blue economy, but the transportation on the oceans, as well as the science, the engineering, the business, and even the liberal arts. But our origins really came from the Texas A&M Maritime Academy, and that was the first official part of the Galveston campus here. It's important to know going in that, why is maritime important? A lot of Texans don't think of Texas as a maritime, state or being important to us. We think of agriculture, we think of oil and gas, et cetera. But if you stop and think about it, I mean, really 90% of everything we use, wear, drive, or consume travels on the water. And so the port in Houston is arguably, depending on how you measure it, the number one or number two port in the nation in terms of tonnage and cargo that's moving in and out of here. That it's really crucial to our economy, and a lot of people don't know anything about it because ports are out of the way, they're noisy, they're dangerous. They're just not a place with many tourist attractions and things like that. So we don't know what they even look like. We avoid them. We actually started in 1962. It was President Earl Rudder was key to that. The Texas legislature, great Aggie George Mitchell was a very big part of that team that wanted a maritime academy. There were 5 of these state maritime academies in the United States, but none anywhere in the South. And so they envisioned getting that kind of capability down here. When we started off, the facilities we used were a very old Fort Crockett on Galveston Island. And that's where some of the original offices and dorms were, although in fact, at first, our students went to College Station, and they were full up Aggie cadets in the cadet uniform that hasn't changed much in the last 100 years. Very small cohort. This is actually our first 2 classes of cadets, on the left there, and they began their instruction. They learned to live as cadets up there in College Station and begin their specialized studies. And then after the first, and we continued that, the first year they would be in College Station before coming down here. Until we got some buildings actually built down here. The campus was beginning to take life here. I don't have a date on this particular photo, but we have built that. There was nothing, none of this in the foreground existed at all. And so that all of the docks, the roads, and some of the first buildings. This is the oldest building that's still standing on the campus today, right here. The other ones are still standing too. We've come a long way since then. This is our first training ship, the Texas Clipper. Those cadets who sailed on the Texas Clipper are, always remember that with great pride. She was a World War II era cruise ship. So nothing like having a training ship with mahogany and teak and things like that. Lots of shiny brass for the cadets to keep polished. It gives a little bit of a view of the front door of the campus. This has been completely transformed in the last 3 years right here. And our Maritime Academy, from that first start with a couple of dozen cadets, has grown to 400 to 450 cadets. Most of them are pursuing their Coast Guard license as either a third mate or third assistant engineer. We do have Navy ROTC here. That's in partnership with College Station. And we have a small percentage that are drill and ceremony cadets. So it's very different from the Corps and College Station, where 2/3 of the cadets in College Station are there just for the cadet experience. Most of ours are here with serious, very serious intent. A large part of their training really revolves around the summer sea term. They don't get their summers off to work it off, Whataburger or do other things. They spend their summers at sea. And in fact, just 2 hours ago, we discharged cadets that got back from being at sea for close to 2 months. So they got back to campus a few days ago, finished up their last work, and we handed them their Coast Guard licenses this morning. It's always a busy time, while you're at sea in different ways. Let me just shut up and let them tell you.
It really takes the classroom and it puts you hands-on into what you're learning in the books. To be able to share that learning experience with your fish buddies and with the juniors and the seniors that are on board is something that you can't get anywhere else.
We're in Galveston right now. For the first time since 2005, our cadets are embarking on a training ship to begin their summer sea term. This year, California has brought the Golden Bear to Galveston and handed it over to us. Most years, our cadets have gone out to other academies around the United States to get their summer training.
This year, the entire Corps, the entire academy is together. We're sailing as one unit. It's really cool because everyone connects in a different way than they do on campus when you go see. I saw my freshman year, and some of my best friends in this world are, guys that I've sailed with. I just don't think that you can find that anywhere else other than on a ship going to sea, doing the same things, and being responsible for each other.
The part of cruise I'm looking forward to most is getting to not only go to other ports and really see the world and travel the world, but also see it from a standpoint of, I'm going to be working this as a job one day and getting to learn how the different functions of the ship operate.
Sailing together on one ship, our faculty, our crew, our staff members, our cadet leadership helping lead the cruise. This is really significant. So we're really working together. So the instructors on the ship have been the instructors on land all year. We transitioned from the classroom to the ocean. So the ocean is also our classroom. Having a large ship like this is essential for our mission. both to train merchant marines, future mariners, to support the maritime workforce throughout the Gulf of Mexico region and really the United States and the world.
So that gives you an insight. That video and that particular summer sea term was last summer. So our cadets are, it is a very hands-on world. I've sailed with the cadets in the summers of 2018 and 2019. I couldn't afford to be out there for the whole 2 months, but I've sailed at least one leg with them each summer. And I called my wife when I got back to land after sailing on my first leg. And I told her if I would have known this existed 40 years ago, the entire vector of my life would have been different, because I'm really an operational kind of person at heart. I don't like sitting in offices wearing ties. But it's a, you know, they're working around the clock. Cadets are working 24-hour around the clock shifts. They're not 24 hours straight, but they're 4 on, 8 off, 4 on. They're going to class at sea. They're working in the engine room. The engineers are working, you know, down below most of the time where the sun doesn't shine. They're working when something breaks at sea. They're the ones that are working it. They've got their hands on the controls with seasoned mariners and faculty that are also seasoned, you know, mariners that are there with them and guiding them. You see them get pretty excited as they're going through the crowded shipping lanes, and you know, which makes them really work. It's too easy to go straight across the Gulf of Mexico. You got to get out there where you're dealing with traffic and hazards. Our cadets this summer got to dodge a little hurricane, so they got the full meal deal this summer as they were down south, and the hurricane went a little further south. And so they went down into really off the coast of Mexico. They were no closer than 170 miles from the hurricane, but they had some high seas to deal with. So it's just a great living, learning, you know, working environment that gets them ready. And I do enjoy being out there with them. You know, we talk about the purpose of the campus is the blue economy, but we really are driving that blue economy in a very real way here. In the video, I was mentioning ship, and that it's one of the things that, let's see if I can do this. That big training ship, the Texas Clipper, is now an artificial reef off the coast of Brownsville. It reached the end of its life, and the Clipper 2 these ships are owned by the federal government, and the Clipper 2 was, and the federal government uses them as disaster response vessels. So in the case of a coastal disaster, they activate them as federal assets and put them to work. Our ship was called to duty after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and at the end of 2005, the federal government said, you know, we've got other needs for your ship, and so they kept it with a promise to get us one soon. We're still waiting. We got a fairly small ship, the General Rudder, that can only handle less than 50 cadets. We got 47 on her this summer, and we've worked out agreements. So as you saw in the video, we were on the California training ship. They brought it here, and then we took it back to them through the Panama Canal, back to Vallejo, California, via Puerto Rico and Hawaii and Seattle. So it was a great adventure last summer. What we're looking forward to is this. This is the new National Security Multi-Mission Vessel. This is being funded by Congress right now for a dual role, both a training ship and as a disaster response capability. Unfortunately, we're not first in line, but the money for the ship that's destined to come to us is moving through the Congress right now. It's been approved by the House, and we're waiting. It hadn't made it all the way through the Senate yet, but it's pretty exciting. This is an expensive deal. These are about $325 million. It's a new build. The ships that we've used for training since the inception. I mean, since the federal government started sponsoring the Mariner training programs, have always been ships essentially on their last mission. I'm going to try to see, I'm going to stop the share real quick, and I've got time. I've got a short video that I think I can find here that's worth it. Let me get this queued, and let me try sharing again. Uh-oh, there we go, hang on. Yeah, that'll do it. You see a video starting?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
This modern special purpose ship is designed to provide flexible, scalable, and adaptable capabilities and is aptly named the National Security Multi-Mission Vessel, or NSMV. The new ship is optimally designed to maximize support of both missions, training, and emergency response. Key design goals for NSMV were to achieve high levels of safety and efficiency, while also being environmentally friendly in compliance with current and expected future regulations and requirements. In support of this goal, NSMV will fully meet U.S. and international safety regulations for ships carrying 700 plus persons, operate full-time on clean burning, low sulfur fuel, use engine waste heat for accommodation heating, be fitted with efficient LED lighting, and have hull lines optimized for low propulsion power. Model Basin SSPA in Sweden carried out hull lines optimization using computerized fluid dynamics, with results confirmed by model testing. This process resulted in a 10% reduction in propulsion power between the initial concept design and the optimized hull design, allowing one diesel generator to be eliminated. Through use of thrusters and flap-type rudder, NSMV is able to moor without tugs, very useful for undeveloped ports. NSMV can support humanitarian response missions by transporting general cargo, containers on the open deck aft, and vehicles and trailers in the enclosed roll-on, roll-off, or RO-RO for short, space below. A cargo crane, also used for training, and a side ramp allow the vessel to be self-unloading. The most important mission for NSMV is training our nation's future merchant mariners. Fully integrated and wired training spaces include 8 classrooms, a large navigation lab near the bridge, several cadet workshops, simulator spaces, and laboratory spaces. A fully equipped training bridge is located below the main bridge, where cadets can experience navigation of the vessel without interfering with actual safe navigation. A large auditorium is useful for lectures, guest speakers, and large meetings. NSMV has berthing for 600 cadets and 160 non-cadets. For increased functionality and in line with federal and industry standards, the ship has a variety of berthing spaces, including private cabins, 2-person and 4-person cabins, and other denser berthing spaces in the hull that are limited to no more than 30 in a space. The integrated accommodation spaces enable convenient access to berthing, classrooms, training, and mess areas. For humanitarian missions, the ship systems are designed to accommodate up to 1,000 people a day for 2 weeks. During humanitarian missions, when the ship can be a host to many transient workers, it is necessary to control access to command and control areas of the ship. Through the use of existing design boundaries and efficient layout, sensitive areas of the ship can be cordoned off to non-essential personnel. The habitability and engineering spaces were designed for functionality and with the operational mariner in mind. For convenience, the food storage, preparation, service, and mess areas are on the same deck, arranged for catering and service efficiency. Medical facilities on the NSMV are larger than required for a training ship and can easily be expanded to adjacent spaces by landing medical modules on deck and in the RO-RO space. Key system redundancy is necessary to ensure continuation of essential services in the event of a fire or flooding casualty in any one area. 2 separate engine rooms and 2 4,500 kilowatt main propulsion motors located in separate watertight compartments provide the needed redundancy. It also allows training to take place in one engine room while the second is used for propulsion. A diesel-electric propulsion plant was chosen because of the significant electric loads resulting from the large number of persons on board and because it allows efficient operation of the plant. Only the number of engines needed to suit the operating speed are placed online. Safe return to port in case of loss of the main propulsion system is possible through installation of a drop-down azimuthing thruster that can propel the vessel at up to 6 knots.
Okay, so that's an idea of what's to come, and in a way, I think it's almost too easy. You know, you get a ship new like that. What's going to break? What fun's that? You know, and that's been one of my joys. The last 2 summers was really working with the cadets as they're trying to figure out. You know, when if something breaks down there, you take it apart and you start cleaning it. Oops. I don't know if it's playing on yours, but it's playing on mine. So let me kill this. You probably couldn't hear that, but all of a sudden my computer started making noise again. So with a new ship like that, yeah, it'll be different. But we're very excited about being able to contribute to the disaster response capability for the Gulf of Mexico, and that's actually been key. We honestly wanted to go with another ship, an older one, a retrofit of some kind, but those don't support that humanitarian mission and the disaster response mission as well as this new one will. The Texas Department of Emergency Management, which is now part of Texas A&M University system, led by Chief Nim Kidd, is very excited about having this kind of capability available, and he arranged for a meeting with me and the national director of FEMA, and they're very, very excited about having this kind of capability in the Gulf of Mexico. This need was really hammered home after Hurricane Harvey. Our ship was activated, in the days after Hurricane Harvey caused so much problems, for Texas. And the next day we moved 35 FEMA workers onto the ship. That's it. It's all, and which is pretty useless. And there are very large training ships located at Massachusetts and New York, and it took them over 2 weeks to get to the Gulf of Mexico. In the meantime, 2 more hurricanes had come through the Caribbean and Florida. So that 2 more weeks is too long. We can be anywhere from Brownsville to Key West in 2 days from here. And, we're excited about being able to support, that kind of mission too. So I've used up my time, but I'd welcome questions. So I'll do my best.
This is Miguel from an ex-club member in Argentina, but I spent a year on a ship in Africa called the Africa Mercy with an organization called Mercy Ships.
You bet.
And I met a cadet from your school. He was doing some practical work there. Have you heard of Mercy Ships? And
oh yeah. Miranda Strawbridge is on our Sea Aggie Former Students Association director, and she comes to her office is actually in the very close to campus here. And she's down here recruiting some of our employees. Husband and wife worked with Mercy Ships for 3 or 4 years. We've been trying to, one of the ships is in the shipyard in the Canary Islands this summer, and we were trying to get—
It's the Africa Mercy.
Yeah, we were trying to get some cadets over there to work her in the shipyard, but because of the international travel was all, in really bad shape. So, yeah, great program.
Great.
Now, the different thing there is nobody is crew. They're all volunteers. And they have to pay their way.
Pay your own way, yeah.
What we've been telling the cadets is this is experience. And it shows that selfless service that we try to bring to them as part of the whole Aggie experience here, to go. It's good for you to do that. Kind of like doing the Peace Corps, things like that. And I have an Aggie son who did the Peace Corps. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I worked for 50 years in the maritime industry, And during that period, I hired from time to time graduates from your school. And I would say that the quality of those graduates was absolutely top. I started the program when I lived in New York, where I was one of the first ones to hire for our type of industry from the Maritime College up there. And then when I moved down here, we went down and met with the people in Galveston, but they were really first class. I also believe that the Port of Houston is actually contributing to the city of Houston's economy by about a third,
right?
Direct and indirect. And most people don't know that huge amount. They always talk about we are in the oil industry and the medical industry, but the maritime industry is actually contributing about a third of towards the economy.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. That Galveston was a much larger city in 1900, and after the hurricane caused such a lethal blow to Galveston, city of Houston, they doubled down and they decided to spend an incredible amount of money dredging the Houston Ship Channel, which they were a little more of a secure port. Because of that, it is the engine of commerce.
Yeah, the company I started with that got me moved from Denmark to United States was the company that originally started down in Galveston.
Okay.
And in 1936, they moved from Galveston to Houston. But I worked in Galveston back in 65 and 66 from time to time. So I got to know the city at that time.
Fantastic. Well, we're trying to keep, it is absolutely my goal. I just took over as the superintendent of the Maritime Academy last September. And I did not initially have that hat on, but we needed to make some changes. And I'm very passionate about maintaining that same Aggie quality. I want our graduates to be known for their intelligence, their teamwork, their work ethic, and their just get her done, grit and determination to get a job done. That's what we've been known for, for 140 years. And everybody wants that kind of person on their crew or their team or in their office or shop.
Yeah. Great presentation. Gwen, did you have a question?
Well, I was wondering regarding the environment. We hear so much now about the oceans. How is that being addressed down there?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's huge. And I say that the Maritime Academy is what started this campus. But the truth is, A&M started some marine biology and oceanography labs in Galveston in about 57. And so we'd already had some research labs set up down here, and they were part of College Station where people would come down here. We're very strongly tied to the oceans. Marine biology, marine environmental sciences are actually marine biology is our largest department here. It's people, students come from all over the world to be part of this. This program. We do a lot of stuff that's associated with fisheries, a lot of stuff that's associated with the movement of pollutants. Very proud of the work that our team here has done at figuring out how to remediate for instance, oil leaks. And they're looking at the microorganisms that actually digest, that eat oil, because there's been oil seeps in the oceans forever, and there's an ecosystem associated with bacteria that are looking for that oil, and they eat it and use it for energy. And they've created it. The Deepwater Horizon was actually the first time that a dispersant the trouble with a huge oil spill is you have these huge mats, globs of oil, and they float up into the marshlands, and sea life gets is killed by it, frankly. And they found that there's emoluments and things you could use to disperse it. And if you can disperse it and it falls settles as very small particles, little globs, and the bacteria can latch onto those, and they can eat it in weeks.
Wow.
And they, during that big spill that was going on with the Deepwater Horizon, they got permission to inject the dispersant down at the seafloor where the leak was actually coming out, and it took 16 hours because the oil coming out of the bottom of the seafloor took 16 hours to get to the surface. 16 hours after they started injecting the dispersant down there, the plume of oil on the surface disappeared. It was no longer rising to the surface. It was settling, and they call it snow because it's light colored particles. And the bacteria just, man, they jump on it, they multiply. And so that's and we had by that point, it had been turned into an operational kind of thing, and we had only a periphery part of that. But there are C-130 aircraft that are now stationed along in different strategic places around the Gulf to jump on these kind of spills. So you can spray this stuff from the surface, from the air, and it causes it to break up. And, that kind of thing's really exciting to me, that where we're really doing research that really makes a difference.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions for Colonel Fossum?
I don't have any questions, but I was reading the other day that Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy in 1871, had just been released from prison and was asked to be the first president of what is now Texas A&M University. He turned it down, and you should be grateful today that you don't have to explain.
Yeah, that's a sore subject, isn't it, folks? The only statue we have on this campus is George Mitchell. And I think we're okay. And he's actually in an Aggie cadet uniform. There's statues of George Mitchell, the oilman George Mitchell, the developer, and everything else. There's a statue, actually a Mardi Gras, or several Mardi Gras murals of George Mitchell here in Galveston. And so when we wanted to he donated the land that our campus is on. And so that's his tie. We wanted to do a statue for him with his family's permission, and we went with the cadet George Mitchell. So I think we're okay.
Colonel, let me ask you one quick question.
Yes, sir.
And that is, and this goes back to your astronaut work, but recently when the individuals returned from the space station, they had a water landing.
Yep.
For the first time in, I think, decades.
Yeah, about 45 years or so.
And in a nutshell, what are the advantages or disadvantages of that, and why did they go away from it?
Yeah, well, we have the U.S. had we from the very beginning we did water landings, and from the very beginning the Russians did on land landings. Although truth be told, the Russians' first two flights, and I didn't know this until I was training in Russia and really studying some of their history a little bit more. Yuri Gagarin did not land in his capsule. He was the first human to fly in April 12th of 1961. He was descending in the capsule under a parachute, and once he got down to a certain altitude, he pulled an ejection handle and rode an ejection seat out just like out of a jet, and then he landed on his feet, under the parachute. They had not figured out how to soften the impact load of hitting the ground in a capsule yet. Our early ones, we just decided we had a really big Navy, and we decided, the splashdown gives you a little less of a shock load when you hit. Of course, and then we for 30 years we flew space shuttles, and they land like an airliner. Very smooth landing. I mean, in fact, I did 2 shuttle landings and you can barely tell you've even touched down. They just grease it down. It's a good Air Force landing, not one of those Navy landings. And I did fly with the Russians 9 years ago. And when I went up to the space station in June of 2011, and I opened up the first home football game that year. It was a lot of fun. Seeing myself and Kyle Fields from space with my 12th man talent stuff. But anyway, when you land though, I mean, it's a car crash. Even with the about 5 feet off the ground, there's some rocket engines on the bottom of the capsule that there's a sensor and they trip to start to slow you down. The seat, while you're hanging under the parachute, there's a pyrotechnic charge goes off and it cocks the seat. It actually lifts you up another 10 inches or so that when you hit, the shock absorber can absorb some of that energy. But it's still a car crash. It is, knock the breath out of you kind of thing. And you got to get tucked and make sure your tongue's not between your teeth. I think the downside, and this is, my worry is, and Doug and Bob, they were up there less than 2 months for that first flight of the SpaceX, recently. My worry is about 90% of the people that come back from being in space for a long time get sick. I mean, they are throwing up sick, just as your balance system is so so messed up. And I have seen people coming back on the space shuttle and on the Soyuz that were incapacitated. They couldn't move. People had to really manhandle them to help lift them up and get them on their feet, or take care of them as they're sick. And I'm worried about people being incapacitated. At least when you land with the Russians, I got a bruise. I had the breath knocked out of me for a minute. And we got dragged behind the parachute to add insult to injury. The injuries weren't bad. I just got a bruise. But at least the ground quit. The ground wasn't moving. By the time we were done with that, it wasn't moving anymore. So I'm worried about them bobbing around in the ocean while you're trying to get the recovery ship. They landed very close to the recovery ship. They were on them very quickly, but it's not always that way. You can't have unplanned situations where you have to leave the space station and then we don't have time to pre-position all the ships out there. So I'm a little worried about them coming back we just had very little experience. We only had three Skylab crews in the it was the late 70s that spent 1 to 3 months in space and came back in the Apollo capsule. And I've talked to several of them. This is way back when I was supporting the space station redesign about 25 years ago. We were talking to the old Apollo Skylab guys, and they talked about being pretty sick.
Wow. Well, any other questions before we adjourn for the day? I can't see anything else.
I don't see any hands going up.
I can't see any.
Anyway, can I finish real quick with something?
Absolutely.
Because the Rotary, and I've had the chance. I've never done a Rotary by Zoom before. But I've had the chance to visit with Rotary clubs, all over the state, and I'm always so impressed by Rotary, your commitment to Rotary, to be there, to be part of it, the values that you very openly share and embrace, the support for each other, the support for business, for ethical business, ethical leadership, for communities. This is the bedrock of America. And so thank you for what you're doing to keep Rotary going, because so many young people today, they just don't get it. They're not part of it, and they're not brought in the same way to understand that value of community, being in it together, supporting each other, and the value of business to our country, to our communities. And so thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for those kind words. we like to think that we have those values, and it's nice to hear you communicate that for us.
One plug that we might be able to put in though, Colonel Fossum. There are two Rotary clubs in Galveston. Rotary Club of Galveston, which is very old, and the Rotary Club of Galveston, Iowa. And there's a college component to Rotary called Rotaract. And that might be something that you could even instill on the campus. It's a service organization and could be an ability, you might have the ability to put that in at the campus in Galveston, and it might be a good service opportunity on campus. I'm an Aggie myself.
I gathered that, sir.
What you may not know is my cousin Carl Hageland was in the first graduating class in the Maritime Academy.
Yes.
He passed away this past year.
I met him a few years ago. Yes,
He was one gung-ho guy, I'll tell you that.
yes, he was. God bless you. We miss him.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. I wondered. I saw your name and said, yeah. Could you guys send me info on that? We've got the Circle K, which is tied to Kiwanis.
Oh yeah, they're not worth anything though.
They're not worth anything. I've been to their meetings.
Well, plus Colonel Bill was born on the island, so
so was Carl. We lived about half a mile apart.
So,
yeah.
We will make sure that you're apprised of the information for
Right.
and hopefully you can affiliate with one of those two fine clubs.
I'll get my student affairs guys. Love it. Thanks a bunch. Keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.